On top of that, we'll pop into the sport mode for a second here. It's fast! Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's going to be reviewing the all-new Ford F-150 Lightning. If you guys don't already know, the fart sniffers over at Motor Trend decided to name this electric vehicle Truck of the Year, and well, yeah, we're going to kind of go over that in today's video by reviewing this F-150 Lightning and showing just how much of a practical truck this truck thing is. But anyways, before we get into this video, a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller, Ford Lincoln here in Provo for giving me some time with this Lightning. Check out the intro in the description down below. Ask for John Jenks if you have any questions. And then as always, if you want to save time buying the next time purchase car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Let's start with the electric vehicle specs. So this has a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack. The standard version of the Lightning has a 98 kilowatt hour battery pack. Now in standard version, you get 230 miles of range, and then in this version, you get 320 miles of range. Spoiler alert, you don't get that amount of range while towing or in the cold. It's significantly less, and I'll show that to you guys a little bit later in the video. Now with this fully loaded package, we have 580 horsepower and then 775 pound-feet of torque. So it's a powerful pickup truck. Now here's the key fob for the new Lightning. You've got your unlock function, your lock function. This is the opening here for the frunk, and then that is for the tailgate. And well, let's see if the frunk works in the cold. I'm pretty sure it will, because you know, these trucks have actually been pretty good with a lot of the components. But you guys can see here tons of storage space here in the frunk. We've got some outlets up front as well. So I mean, this just adds to the practicality of the Lightning. I definitely think this is, you know, pretty cool. And then you can see the under storage as well with those clunky boards. But yeah, definitely a cool feature. And then I do believe I can tap it again to close it automatically. There you go. So, you know, I can't knock the Lightning for that. Now, before we go the rest of the rear, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now with the hood on the Lightning, it's pretty much like a standard F-150 hood. It is a little bit softer with the lines. You'll kind of notice that throughout the truck. So you have less waviness with this hood, you just make it more aerodynamic. And then popping down below, you have the Ford F-150 Lightning light bar. Now, if you get the Pro version of the Lightning, it actually doesn't have the light bar. It's the higher up packages like this Lariat. And then the whole front end is closed off because, well, it's fully electric. Parking sensors on the front end, tow hooks as well. And I like that the bumpers are body painted. And well, when it comes to front end design, I think that Ford did a really good job because this still looks like an F-150, but it looks like a futuristic F-150. Now, coming on the side here, our tire wheel setup is 275, 60, 20 in the front and over in the rear as well. And then you guys can see the aerodynamic wheels. And speaking of wheels that are things that move, this is a dual electric motor setup, so it has all-wheel drive, which means that it actually should do pretty good in the winter. And then also, you know, getting grip and all that kind of stuff while you're towing if you're trying to launch off the line with a trailer. Now the F-150 Lightning has one charging port. It's on the driver's side. It does have fast charging available with it, which is pretty cool. On the other side, you guys probably will notice that there's also a charging port, but it's just a dud. We also have these fixed side steps here on the side. You got keyless entry there with the door handles. You got that Lightning logo there in the rear as well. And then when you look at the side profile of this truck, I think that, again, it's a good looking truck because it pretty much looks like a regular F-150. Again, the body lines are a lot softer, and again, that's most likely for aerodynamic purposes. Now here's the key fob again for the Lightning because we are going to do the tailgate drop down. So just like, you know, newer F-150s, you got an automatic tailgate. Now popping into the bed area, it's just regular F-150. So first off, 1,686 pounds of payload capacity, which is really solid for a half-ton truck. LED lights, this has Pro Power on board, but it's kind of covered in snow because the bed is full of snow. But yeah, I mean, it's got a solid payload capacity, and you have Ford's little tailgate step system. Now this should still raise up. That is always a fancy feature. Now there's a closer look at the Lightning logo, and then you guys can see here with the lights, they're definitely funky. You got like the F-150 logo right there in that portion. But yeah, giant light bar here in the back, got F-150 stamped into the bed, and then you can see a little Lightning logo with the American flag, and then parking sensors at the bottom. And like I said earlier, I think that Ford did a really good job with the styling on this, especially compared to some of the other EVs that we're starting to see on the market, especially EV trucks like this. Has to be, you know, probably the most like normal looking, which I think is a good thing. Oh, and before we dive inside, something to mention is because this is electric, it has independent rear suspension and then also independent front suspension. Now the interior is pretty much normal Lariat. You guys can see the colorations, you know, a little bit different than what you see in a lot of Lariats, but you know, it pretty much is a carryover. Bang & Olufsen sound system there on the door panel too. And then we have these nice leather seats, notice perforated there in the center portion, and then you do have under seat storage as well. And well, actually popping inside, I mean, this is a Super Cruise, so really big in terms of the space. You can see a storage pocket, got some cup holders, vents, heated seats, and then a bunch of charging outlets. And then headroom's also great here in the Lightning. Now with the front door panel, you guys can see material use is identical to the rear. All of our window controls front two are automatic. You got your mirror adjustments, the mirrors do power fold in. Memory seat functionality, and look at the cool wood trim. Blind spot monitoring, again, for the mirrors, and there's a front door panel. And then here is the front seat. You guys can see, again, perforated there in the center portion. You got your power adjustments on the side. So we've got our control here for the pedal adjustment, your parking brake, that's your light control, the mirror lights, and then you guys can see to open up the frunk and then to drop down the tailgate. And then, yeah, this trim right here on the dash, definitely unique to the Lightning, but I think it looks cool. Now here's a shingle for the Lightning, really nice leather trim all around. You've got controls for center stack, phone controls, volume controls, voice command controls. It does come with adaptive cruise control. And then you guys can see we've got a turn signal windshield wiper stock. And this is where the problems begin. So full digital gauge cluster, which is not a problem. It looks fantastic, just like other F-150s. But notice this little number right here, 178 miles of driving range, 89% charge. So we can extrapolate that if this had 100% charge, we're looking at just over 200 miles of range. Nowhere near the 320 miles of stated range. And that's just because it's 33 degrees outside. And spoiler alert, most of the people in the US live in areas that get down to this temperature on a regular basis. But aside from that, as for the rest of the gauge cluster, I think that, you know, again, functionality is great. It looks fantastic. And, well, I'll just leave those two numbers for you guys. Now in reverse, we do have a backup camera with trajectory lines that turn with the steering wheel, as you guys can see. And then you got that bird's eye view down below. Now in the Lightning, they do this silly vertical tablet instead of the regular F-150's horizontal screen, which I think is kind of silly. But you guys can see I press those buttons there. Nothing happens there because it's happening here at the top. So notice the camera view actually changes, which is pretty cool. It's so hard to get a full viewpoint of this monstrosity, but there's quite a bit happening. So you got that F-150 Lightning logo there at the top. This lets you go through things like the drive modes. So notice that we've got like a normal sport, off-road, tow haul mode, and then one pedal drive. You also have a locking differential, which is pretty cool. And then you can do stuff with like the camera right there. Overall, pretty easy to use. This does also have onboard scales as well, which Ford is now putting in their other vehicles. I think this is a really cool feature so that you know exactly how much of the payload that you're actually using up, which notice that some of the payload is used up because of the snow. So that's how much the snow weighs. Not a lot, but it does weigh a little bit. And then you got this like main screen here, which is kind of like your fun screen, I guess. That's where you can do the sketch pad, your Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, so your phone stuff is all going to be there. And then we have this bottom screen, which more stuff with phone and everything. And then we have the climate control section. Notice that I have the climate controls turned off. I did that on purpose because Ford recommends that you have your heated seat on and your heated steering wheel on in the winter, and try not to use the climate controls if you want to basically conserve range. And that's what we get for conserving range. We've got our Pro Trailer Assist. You guys can see trailer brake controls down below. And then, we got this nice wood trim right here. Wireless phone charging pad with some USBs. Now here is the shifter, and you know, it's just like a normal Ford F-150 shifter, which is pretty cool. You've got some cup holders right here. We do have the workbench center console as well with this, and then you can see tons of storage space in this as well. And again, I really like this on the dash. I think it looks pretty cool. Again, it's the same coloration as stuff in the door panel. And then the glove box setup right here, which is a little bit different than a regular F-150. Like this is just kind of like a little bit smaller, which is interesting. And then up top here, we got a sunglass holder, power sliding rear window, just like regular F-150, and then full panoramic sunroof. Now for the 2023 model year, Ford didn't really change anything with the Lightning except the price. So a Lariat equipped like this now stickers for almost $90,000. Let's see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off. Here's your visibility over the hood, both of the mirrors, which you have blind spot monitoring, and throughout the rest of the rear. And let's go off on our maiden voyage. So we are setting off in the F-150 Lightning, and something I forgot to mention, the walk around that I want to mention now. Towing capacity with this truck is right around 10,000 pounds, but we've all seen the towing tests on YouTube. Everyone's done a towing test at this point, and everyone gets the same result. they basically go from getting 300 something miles of range, is what you're supposed to be able to get in this in ideal conditions, to getting something like 60 or 70 miles of driving range while towing with the truck. And so hypothetically, if you wanted to, you know, tow across the country, you're gonna have to stop every 60 or 70 miles to charge up. And so I would say that this is not really a cross-country tower. It's not even a cross-county tower, unless you live in Rhode Island. In that case, then yeah, I guess it is a cross-county tower. But anyways, the F-150 Lightning is a really good vehicle. An emphasis on the word vehicle. Like, yes, it has a truck bed, and yes, it has truck payload and towing capacity, but we'll kind of discuss that a little bit more later. This drives really smooth. Like, it's basically a luxury car on road. It is so comfortable. And on top of that, we'll pop into the sport mode for a second here. It's fast. It's super fast, and it's fun. It's actually pretty fun to drive. It puts down the power really well. I mean, it's snowing quite a bit today. I mean, it's like, again, 30-something, 32 degrees. Roads are wet. But yeah, it gets really good grip. So it drives really well, frankly. And seat comfort's also good. Like, everything about this as a vehicle, it is amazing. Like, but that comes with a big caveat of the fact that this doesn't have the practicality that it needs for it to actually work. Now, if you live in sunny California, like the average car journalist and probably like most of the people at Motor Trend, then you're probably going to vote this as truck of the year or whatever, because you're probably always going to be able to get that 300 something miles of range because it's 70 degrees year round. And you're probably not going to tow anything because, again, if you live in California, you probably live in a really tight urban area where, you know, towing a trailer around isn't necessarily the most practical thing. And so you probably just have a pickup truck because you just want a pickup truck, right? A lot of people just drive around trucks and don't actually use them for truck stuff. That's fine. People can do whatever they want. But for the rest of us that live in the rest of the US that's basically not California or Florida, it snows, or it at least gets cold. And with the snow and the cold, you lose range, obviously, right? I mean, the fact that this basically loses like over 100 miles of range, or around 100 miles of range, just because of the cold, I mean, like, that is a massive loss of practicality. If this was the short range version, and, you know, similar math, like, what, you're only gonna have 100 miles of driving range in the cold or something like that? That's ridiculous. Like, how is that practical? How is anyone gonna actually, like, again, how is anyone gonna use that? Now, Ford, again, does have some recommendations, obviously. Like I said, don't use the climate controls. So, like, if you're in the winter, just be okay with being cold. The other thing is keep it plugged in. If you have it plugged in, then the battery will always be warmed, and so then that will also basically, you know, help out with increasing the range. But with all these things, you're still probably going to lose at least, you know, maybe not like right now we're losing about 1/3 of the range. Maybe you'd lose closer to like maybe 1/4 of the range. You're still losing quite a bit of range. Now, the next thing that I want to dive into before we sum things up fully is, now consider this. If you wanted to tow with this truck in the winter, okay, well, towing, we know you basically only get 60, 70 miles of range. And then if it's wintertime, you lose about 1/3 of your range. So, like, if you're towing in the winter, what, you're going to get, you know, 40 miles of driving range, 20 miles of drive, again, depending on the exact conditions, depending on the weight of your trailer. You're only going to be able to tow 20, 40 miles. How is this pickup truck of the year? How is this practical as a pickup truck? Again, payload's amazing. Towing capacity is amazing, but it's an electric pickup truck. And as cool as this thing is, and as much as I personally love this and would actually drive one of these, I have to admit, this can't be pickup truck of the year. Now, something like the Ford F-150 Power Boost, that could be pickup truck of the year, because you can still tow an insane amount with that pickup truck. You can actually tow the distance. You can use gas stations and stuff like that. Now, I know that, you know, a gas-powered pickup truck, or even a hybrid-powered pickup truck like the Power Boost, doesn't go with the agenda of some of these journalism outlets. Again, I'm not accusing them of anything, but I mean, you know, with the stuff that they've been saying lately, I feel like they're swinging towards a certain direction. I'll let you guys decide that for yourselves. But here's the deal. This is an amazing utility vehicle. That's what I'm going to call it. I think that for someone that lives in an area with ideal conditions, this would be a great vehicle where, again, like California or something like that, where, like, I think you'd love it. Charging infrastructure is okay there. It's not the best, but it's okay there. And, you know, the biggest thing is the weather conditions. And then if you're not going to use it to tow, great. I think this is a great vehicle for that. But if you actually want a truck to do truck things, this isn't it. Look at that. plug-in vehicle while not used because outside air temperature is low. But yeah, that's, I know that was kind of like a long-winded rant, but I just like, I think it's so stupid that, like, I don't know, something like that, something like more affordable from Ford, like an XLT Power Boost, that should have probably been truck of the year, not this electric thing that gets less than 200 miles of range unloaded. And then if I wanted to hook up a trailer to this, or if I hooked up a trailer to this, I can basically drive down the street before I have to charge it again. I mean, come on. That's all. That's going to sum things up with our video on this F-150 Lightning. Again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Ford Lincoln here in Provo, Utah for giving me some time with this Lightning. Check out the inventory in the description down below. Ask for John Jenks if you have any questions. I'll see ya.